Welcome back to Talk Tickers, the show that breaks down earnings calls so you don't have to.
That's right.
Today, we are diving deep into Delta Airlines' Q4 2024 report. And wow,
Yeah.
these numbers are impressive.
I've got to say, even for someone who follows Delta pretty closely, I was blown away by how strong this quarter was.
Seriously, record-breaking quarter and year, they're flying high in every sense of the word.
No kidding.
They pulled in a pre-tax profit of $1.6 billion this quarter
Wow.
and a whopping $5.2 billion for the whole year. Their operating margin is in the double digits.
Double digits.
And get this, their return on invested capital is twice the industry average.
Yeah, that return on invested capital really jumped out at me. It shows just how efficient Delta is at using their money to generate profit. It's not just about having a fleet of planes.
Right.
It's about using them, strategically optimizing routes, managing costs effectively,
Yeah.
really squeezing every ounce of value out of their operations.
They're making money hand over fist.
Yeah.
But what's the secret sauce? What are they doing that other airlines aren't?
Well, operational excellence is definitely a big part of it. They snag the top spot for on-time performance and completion factor, beating out all their peers. Think about it. Fewer delays, fewer cancellations, happier customers.
Yeah, less stress all around.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that translates to loyalty and repeat business, which is crucial in the airline industry. Plus, they snagged the Skyerian Platinum Award for operational excellence for the 4th year in a row.
It's like winning an Oscar for Best Airline.
Right. They're the Meryl Streep of airlines.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
So they've got happy customers, but what about their employees? Are they getting some love too?
Oh, absolutely. Happy employees, too.
Yeah.
They got a 5% pay raise last year, and a massive $1.4 billion profit-sharing payout is coming their way on Valentine's Day. That's more than the entire rest of the industry combined.
Talk about a sweet Valentine's Day gift.
Right. Delta's definitely sharing the wealth with their employees and their shareholders.
Speaking of love, Delta is clearly feeling optimistic about the future, especially 2025, the centennial year of flight.
Big year for aviation.
They're forecasting it to be their most profitable year yet, with earnings per share exceeding 7.35, plus over $4 billion in free cash flow.
Those are some seriously impressive projections.
And all of this comes on the back of sky-high travel demand. Both leisure and corporate travelers are packing their bags and hitting the skies.
People are itching to travel.
It seems like Delta saw double-digit growth in cash sales after the election, and 4 of their top 10 revenue days ever happened during that post-election period.
So what's driving that demand? What's fueling this travel boom?
Yeah, what's going on?
Well, it seems like a mix of pent-up demand and general economic optimism. After a few years of uncertainty, people are feeling more confident about spending money and traveling. Plus, the strong dollar is making international travel, especially to Europe, very attractive for Americans.
That makes sense. Europe on a budget. Who wouldn't want that?
Exactly. And it seems like Delta is ready to capitalize on this travel boom. They're investing a hefty $5 billion in capital expenditures in 2025.
$5 billion. That's a serious chunk of change. What are they spending it on?
They're buying new aircraft, upgrading airport lounges, and investing in cutting-edge technology. But one of their biggest focuses is growing their high-margin premium offerings like Delta One Suites and Comfort Plus. Over 85% of the new seats they're adding in 2025 are in these premium cabins.
So basically, they're betting on people being willing to pay extra for a more comfortable and luxurious flying experience.
Exactly. And it's a smart bet considering the growing demand for premium travel, especially among boomers and increasingly millennials as they enter their peak earning years.
So Delta's catering to both the current and future big spenders in the travel market.
Exactly. They're playing the long game here.
Okay, so Delta is investing heavily in growth, but are they neglecting their bottom line? What about efficiency?
That's a great question. You might think with all this investment costs would be soaring, but Delta is committed to keeping non-fuel unit cost growth in check, aiming for low single-digit growth in 2025.
So how are they managing to invest in growth while keeping costs under control?
It's a mix of smart strategies. They're leveraging their existing assets and workforce, finding efficiencies in maintenance, and using technology to streamline operations. They're also finalizing major airport upgrades. It's about working smarter, not just harder.
It sounds like Delta is firing on all cylinders.
They really are.
Record profits, happy employees, soaring demand, strategic investments. But let's dig a little deeper.
Okay.
What are some of the more nuanced insights from this earnings call that might have slipped under the radar?
All right, let's unpack some of those hidden gems. First, let's talk about who's driving the premium travel boom.
Okay.
As we mentioned, boomers are a big part of it, But what's fascinating is that millennials are right behind them, eager to splurge on premium experiences as they enter their peak earning years.
Interesting. So Delta is well positioned to capture that millennial market as they gain more spending power.
Absolutely. They're thinking ahead.
What other insights caught your attention?
Well, corporate travel is making a comeback, but it looks a little different than before. Booking curves are longer, meaning companies are planning further in advance. And Tuesdays and Wednesdays are becoming the busiest travel days.
Wait, hold on. What happened to the classic Monday morning and Friday afternoon rush?
It seems like the lines between work and leisure are blurring, with more people adding personal time to their business trips. That flexibility is changing the dynamics of corporate travel.
So Delta is adapting to these shifts in corporate travel behavior.
Absolutely. They're adjusting their schedules and offerings to meet the evolving needs of business travelers. And here's a quirky little tidbit. A late Easter can actually be good for airlines.
You're kidding? How does that work?
It might squeeze the peak travel period in March, but it also extends the overall travel season, which can lead to better returns.
Wow, I never would have guessed that. It sounds like Delta is leaving no stone unturned when it comes to maximizing their profitability.
Exactly. They're paying attention to the big picture trends and the seemingly insignificant details. That's what sets them apart.
So we've covered a lot of ground here. Delta is clearly in a strong position. But are there any potential challenges or risks on the horizon that investors should be aware of?
That's a great question, and one we should definitely explore. Even with all this positive news, there are always factors that could impact Delta's performance. Things like rising fuel costs, potential economic slowdowns, and increased competition could create headwinds.
Okay, so it's not all sunshine and rainbows. There are some potential storms brewing.
Right. Every flight has a little turbulence.
Let's delve into those risks and challenges in more detail after a quick break. Stay with us.
Yeah, even with the smoothest flights, there's always a chance of some turbulence.
True enough. So let's talk about those potential headwinds you mentioned. Rising fuel costs. That's a big one for any airline.
Absolutely. Fuel is one of their biggest expenses. If oil prices spike, it can really eat into their profits.
Right.
They do have some hedging strategies to try and mitigate that risk, but it's definitely something investors should keep an eye on.
Makes sense. What about the economy? Everyone's talking about a potential slowdown. How could that impact Delta?
Well, if people start tightening their belts, one of the first things they might cut back on is travel, especially discretionary travel like vacations.
Yeah, makes sense.
That could lead to a drop in demand, which would obviously hurt Delta's revenue.
So basically their success is tied to the overall health of the economy.
Pretty much. If the economy sneezes, Delta could catch a cold.
And then there's the competition.
Mm-hmm.
The airline industry is notoriously cutthroat.
Oh, yeah.
Low-cost carriers are always nipping at Delta's heels, trying to undercut them on price.
Always.
I mean, who hasn't been tempted by those super cheap fares on Spirit or Frontier?
Right, exactly. But Delta's betting on people choosing quality and experience over rock-bottom prices.
So they're trying to differentiate themselves by offering a premium product and top-notch service.
Exactly. They're going for that higher-end market.
But they can't afford to get complacent.
No, they can't.
They need to keep innovating and finding ways to attract and retain customers in a fiercely competitive market.
It's a constant battle for market share.
So they're facing pressure from both ends of the spectrum, budget airlines on one side and luxury carriers on the other.
You got it. It's
Yeah.
a tough spot to be in. But they seem to be managing it well so far.
And let's not forget about another potential challenge, labor relations.
Ah, yes. The unions.
Delta has a strong track record of working well with its employees, but airline unions are powerful,
They are?
and contract negotiations can always get tricky,
Oh, absolutely.
right? Those profit-sharing checks don't write themselves.
Exactly.
So if negotiations go south, it could lead to strikes or disruptions that could impact Delta's operations.
No doubt labor disputes can be incredibly disruptive in the airline industry.
Okay, so we've got fuel costs, economic uncertainty, fierce competition, and potential labor issues. Anything else keeping you up at night when it comes to Delta's future?
Well, there's always the wild card of geopolitical events, pandemics, wars, natural disasters. Any of those things that have significant impact on the airline industry.
Yeah, it's true. The world can be a pretty unpredictable place.
That's for sure.
So Delta's got to be agile and ready to adapt to whatever comes their way.
Absolutely. They need to have contingency plans in place and be prepared to adjust their strategies quickly.
Okay, so despite all the positive news, it's not all smooth sailing for Delta. There are some real challenges out there. But you know what they say? What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
That's right. They've faced challenges before and come out on top.
Well, I'm certainly rooting for them. But before we get too carried away with our Delta Love Fest, let's shift gears for a moment and have some fun.
Oh, I like where this is going. You're talking about our This Is Not Financial Advice segment, right?
Know what I can know, where we take a wild swing at a trade idea based on what we've learned.
Always a good time.
Remember, folks, this is purely hypothetical and for entertainment purposes only.
Yeah.
We are not registered financial advisors, so please don't make any investment decisions based on our crazy ideas.
Seriously, folks, this is just us spitballing. Don't
Right.
take it as gospel.
Okay, so with that disclaimer out of the way, here's my pitch. Given Delta's focus on premium travel and the strong dollar making European travel more attractive to Americans, how about this? We short the euro and go long on Delta.
Whoa, now that's a bold move. You're essentially betting that the euro will continue to weaken against the dollar, making Delta's transatlantic flights even more appealing and profitable.
Exactly. Of course, a million things could happen to impact both the euro and Delta's stock price. So again, this is not financial advice.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
But it is an interesting illustration of how macroeconomic trends can potentially create opportunities for specific companies. It's all about connecting those dots.
Right. Sometimes the most insightful observations come from looking at things from a different angle.
Well, I'd say you've certainly presented a unique perspective today.
I try my best. But in all seriousness, Delta's performance is impressive. They're executing their strategy, effectively navigating challenges and positioning themselves for continued success.
I agree. They're definitely a company to watch, both for their financial performance and their ability to adapt and innovate in a dynamic industry.
So to wrap things up, folks,
Yeah.
we've covered a lot of ground today, from Delta's record profits to potential headwinds and even a wild trade idea. We hope you found this deep dive into Delta Airlines informative and entertaining.
And remember, as always, do your own research, make informed decisions, and maybe take our This Is Not Financial Advice segment with a grain of salt and a sense of humor.
Until next time, happy investing.
Yeah.
All right, it's time for everyone's favorite segment.
Oh,
It's time for This Is Not Financial Advice, where we throw out a completely wild,
wild.
but maybe kind of plausible trade idea based on what we've learned today.
Buckle up, folks.
Remember, this is purely hypothetical and for entertainment purposes only. We are not registered financial advisors, so please don't make any actual investment decisions based on our crazy ideas.
Agreed. This is just us spitballing. Don't bet the farm on our ramblings.
Okay, with that disclaimer out of the way, here's my pitch. Given Delta's stellar performance and their focus on those luxurious premium cabins, how about this? We buy calls on Delta.
Calls on Delta. Interesting. So you're thinking with travel demand soaring and Delta raking in profits, their stock price is likely to keep climbing.
Exactly. They're killing it right now, and they've got a solid plan for the future. So why not ride that wave?
Okay, I'm listening.
But here's where it gets spicy. To really juice those potential returns, we're going to add a little leverage.
Leverage. All right, you've got my attention. Tell me more.
We're not just buying any calls. We're going for the deep out-of-the-money calls.
Yeah.
The ones that are way out there in terms of strike price and expiration date.
Whoa, now that's a high-risk, high-reward play. If Delta's stock takes off, those calls could be worth a fortune. But if it fizzles, you're looking at a total loss.
Exactly. It's like strapping yourself to a rocket. Either you reach the moon or you go down in flames.
Yeah.
But hey, that's what makes it exciting, right?
It is definitely not for the faint of heart. But for those who love a good gamble, it's a trade idea worth pondering at least.
Again, everyone, this is not financial advice. We're just having some fun and exploring the outer limits of speculation.
Purely hypothetical.
Please don't try this at home unless you're prepared to lose your shirt.
Seriously, folks, we're just two people talking about stocks. Don't mistake us for financial gurus.
All right, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive into Delta Airlines earnings. We hope you learned something, maybe had a few laughs, and definitely didn't take our trade idea too seriously.
Until next time, happy investing. And remember, the only thing riskier than a bad trade is not learning from your mistakes.
See you next time.